Hi, welcome to Shaky Sports Journeys. Pre-Christmas cracker for you today. A welcome to the show. Ex-British, ex-Commonwealth, ex-European welterweight champion, as well as challenging for the world title. And we'll talk about that a bit later in the podcast. I say hello to Gary the Kid Jacobs. How are you, sir?
Very well, Kasim. Thank you. Thank you for calling this morning. Nice and early.
Nice and early. You're sprightly. I've had a few coffees to get me going. I hope you've had one as well. And we'll have a right good chat today. We're going to take you on a bit of a journey, Gary. So I need to get your memory working here. But we're going to go right the way back. You're a Glasgow boy, from the posher parts of Glasgow. Lovely Newton Mearns. Tell me about your childhood. Tell me about growing up. A bit about the family.
Well, yeah, growing up, I all sort of started back. My dad basically was quite entrepreneurial. Had his own removal company. I remember I moved all the time. It was kind of hard. It wasn't hard. It was great. It was exciting. But I didn't finish any of my schools in any of the years that I went to. I went to Battlefield Primary up till I was primary 5. We moved home when I was about 10, 8, 9, 10. We moved to Netherley. I went to Netherley Primary School from primary 5 to primary 7, which was obviously like a new boy coming to a new school trying to fit in. Then we moved to Newton Mearns. Then I went from Netherley Primary School to Williamwood School. The old Williamwood School, as I knew, had now been built. So we went from there, and then we moved to Newton Mearns, and then from there, I was 6 months in Williamwood, and then I went to Mearns Castle, which was a brand new school back then, and I spent 6 months there. And then my family decided to go and emigrate to Australia. So I went to Australia, and I ended up finishing my high school days in Randwick High School.
You know how mental it is, how close we are to each other. I went to Mount Florida Primary. You went to Battlefield Primary. You ended up in Williamwood. I went to Williamwood. I used to play football against Mearns Castle. Used to play football against Battlefield. So that's weird how close we are in our schooling days. But whereabouts in Australia did you go to then? Which city?
We went to Sydney, New South Wales, and we stayed in a place called Randwick. There's the Randwick Coach, Coogee Beach, and then Maroubra. It was 9 months. I think we spent 9 months there. We came back for a holiday. My dad, 2 brothers. I had no parents growing up, so my dad had 2 brothers. We came back on holiday after about 18 months. I think it was maybe 16 months, 18 months, and he came back for a holiday, and within 3 weeks of getting back to Australia, we were all back home.
So it was just a short stint. Good experience, though.
100%. I mean, I really thought I was quite good at sport, and you're good at sport. I was into athletics. I was into football. Played with Aberdeen Boys Club as a kid. Had no intention of boxing. Never even knew about boxing. We went to Australia. We came back, and we lived in a place. We lived in down in Shawlands, in Lothian Court, off St Talon Road. And it all started. My dad came in one day, and he was like, we guys that we were local, we were friends. A wee man called Morris Lewis was up in the house one day, and I didn't know what he was into. I was into football. One day my dad came back and he went, "Can you fight?" I went, "No bother, I can fight for fun." He was always in trouble in school, fighting as boys do. I hated it. Fighting in school, kept moving, different boys obviously started thinking in their territory. And I was like, "Well, I'm not interested, I play football." And then when he said to me, "You get 50 quid a fight." Now, when somebody says 50 quid a fight and you're a 15-year-old boy, you know what I mean? That's, for me, that sounds like easy money. Yeah. I went to, "Where's the gloves?" Where's the gloves? No, it's not that. So I ended up meeting Morris Lewis, went to the boxing gym, Blantyre, Govan Amateur Boxing Club, went to the boxing gym, thought I was kind of handy, thought I knew what I was doing. I'd done judo for about 6-7 years as a child, and went to the boxing gym. And when I came home that night, it was like, yeah, I can't fight. I know nothing about fighting, and that's when it all sort of changed.
So you were in that. Is that where you stayed for a while? That Blantyre gym, is that where you started training and learning the art of boxing?
It was in Govan swimming baths, Summerton Town Hall. It's no longer there. It was down in Govan, which is a local club. I was trained by a guy called John McDermott, who runs Blantyre and still runs Blantyre Minors to this day. So it was between Govan. I was Govan Amateur Boxing Club, but I trained through in Blantyre.
So early days, you knew you were southpaw. You knew that the left. Was that just the way you lined up straight away?
It's just, I think it was natural. I'm right-handed, so I stood that way in the southpaw stance. Nobody corrected it. Your backhand's meant to be the big shot, so I should have been orthodox. Morris just let me do what I wanted to do. So, I just stood that way, and we stayed that way, boxed that way. The most ironic thing is, when we'll get to that at a later stage, is when I retired and going out through my career and now doing a bit of personal training, I went orthodox. But anyway, I stood southpaw, and my left hand was useless for my first time fights. I never used it for anything. And we just started that way, and we learned that way.
So tell me a bit about your amateur career then, and your first kind of getting experience of starting to fight against opponents.
Well, this description of boxing and fighting, I went, yeah, let's go boxing. My first amateur fight was at the Palace of Arts. I think it was 27 fights on or 25 fights on, and I was last. First fight, you in during the day, and I waited for hours and hours and hours and hours on end. It was kind of daunting, kind of terrifying, kind of all of those things about. But I won that fight. I only had 12 amateur fights, and then at the end of it, I was like, didn't know what I wanted to do. It was just 12 amateur fights. I was like, so the reason why I got so fit and so good at it was I was terrified of getting hurt. I didn't want to get hurt. Nobody wants to get hurt. So in my head, if I could throw punches for 3 minutes of every round, you're defending. And that's how it all started. I had 12 amateur fights, never won anything. I went to Western Districts. I got through and I hurt my hand, and I got to a quarter final. So I only had 12 amateur fights. I won 8 and lost 4.
It's a very short amateur career. You hear of people having 50, 60, 100 plus. Did your coach just advise you then at that point that you're probably more suited for the pro game?
I just think because I started so late on in life, I was 15 and a half years old by the time I put my first set of gloves on, and I was straight into fighting adults. So it was kind of late to start boxing, but also it was also good. But I was also very lucky. I was very lucky in the way of boxing. I found boxing, and boxing found me with Morris. He was involved with a guy, Jim Murray, who trained Jim Watt. He was involved with Jim, so he was involved in boxing. And it was a case of 12 fights. I'm 19 now. I was a goldsmith. I was making jewellery. I was running up and down that Gale Arcade every day, fixing stones and fixing rings and rope chains and soldering and pointing and all these things that I was doing with the jewellery. And it came to a thing when I was 19, and my wee trainer said, "How am I going pro?" I went, "Really?" I grew up knowing no boxing. Not like today when you see the Mayweathers and the Anthony Joshuas. Lennox Lewis had his first fight at my undercard in 1988 against Al Malcolm at the Royal Albert Hall. And then become probably, as far as I'm concerned, one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. But now there's a man over to go. Tyson Fury's my man. Now,
Unreal.
Yeah, he's probably the greatest heavyweight of all time. I don't care what they say about the past. The man's 6'9", he's a giant, can box, can dance, and can move. Anyway, we digress. Back to, 12 amateur fights, and my wee trainer said, how do you fancy going pro? I went, so my ambition when I started, my ambition was just to stay safe and not get hurt. So then I decided, right, I'm really training here, boys. Told all my pals, I'm going to start training. And all I did for 13, 14 years was live the life. I was in my bed early. I was kind of fortunate. I sold a lot of tickets. So it was a lot of people. Being a wee Jewish boy from Newton Mearns was, I'm religious. I respect my religion. And it was like, sold loads of tickets. And all I wanted to do was stay safe and not get. I like my wee face, and I didn't. My mother likes my wee face. She didn't want to see it getting bashed up. So for me, my philosophy was, if I can throw punches for 3 minutes of every round, you're defending. And all I say to people out there, go and try that.
It's easier said than done to throw punches for 3 minutes of every round. You watch some of the fighters now, and they save it in the tank for rounds and rounds and rounds. So was it just, you must have had to be at peak fitness to be able to throw punches, especially for 12 rounds?
Well, for me, you look at people like Josh Taylor, an exceptional talent, probably one of Britain's finest going to come through as one of Britain's finest. He started as a kid, and to becoming like Anthony Joshua, Usyk, all these kids that go through it and go through the Olympian to become an Olympian, they have done that as kids and lived that life as children to get there. I just done it at a later stage. So to do it as an amateur, in any sport, in any field, or any work, or anything we decide to do, you have to be all in. So I went all in at the right time. When I decided to do it, I was all in.
Give me a quick snapshot of your week. What would that, when you were 19, what would a Gary Jacobs week look like?
19 just started. I used to wake up in the morning, go running, do a wee run. Then get
What's a wee run? What's a wee run?
A wee 4.5 mile.
4.5 miler.
4.5 to 5 miles from Shawland, Muir End, Shawland's Homely Road to Talon Road, Shawland's Homely Road, all the way up to Muir End, all the way up to Gifford, all the way, it was a 4.5, 5 mile run. And I used to sort of, I always thought, to throw punches, you need to be fit. So in my head, I needed to run very, very quickly. I used to do that. I started off at 8-minute miles. I was like an 8-minute mile to maybe 9 minutes, who knows, maybe 10 minutes. But I ended up becoming quite a good runner as well. I used to run the half marathon, and 83 minutes was my best time. So that was all 84 minutes, 85 minutes, 83 minutes, 82 minutes, 83 minutes, 84 minutes. So round about that time was my times for running, which also is part of your fitness and puts the miles in the legs. So running is a key element to boxing training. So, or for your fitness levels.
So then, after you've done your morning run, what's the rest of the day look like?
Again, go to work. Howard Jacob was up the Queen Street in a wee office, cleaning and polishing and buffing, sizing rings, making rings, running down. I've got a claim. My claim to fame, as I always remember, my claim to fame was back in the 80s. We used to, when you solder something, you put it in acid, right? And then when you bring out the acid, you put it in bicarbonate of soda to neutralize the acid.
Yeah.
And to get it, I used to shake the change with a bit of towel against my jeans. I used to shake it to get rid of all the liquid. So I was doing this back in 1985 I started this. I was black, my fingernails were black, my hands were black, face was black, but my jeans back then had holes all over them. Holes, tears all over them. They were like old Wrangler jeans, tears and big holes, and because of this acid. And then the next thing I know, there's music coming out, there's people paying 300 and 400 quid for a set of jeans that are ripped. I was running about that Gale Arcade as a kid with ripped jeans, and it was just basically acid from the soldering chains and rings and all that.
Brilliant. So you're just juggling. You were juggling. You were working, training. Just.
And then after work, I used to go train 7 o'clock at night, and that used to be my sort of day. Up at 7 in the morning, run into work for 9, a full day's work, and then train at night time. And then as you progress, 9 fights. I had 9 fights, and then there was a big, massive fight on my 10th fight, which was Dave Douglas. Huge fight in Glasgow, huge fight in Scotland. It was a great fight. There's a lot of controversy about that, and it still goes on to this day.
What's the controversy, Gary?
I had him down 3 times. One round 2, and round 4, and I lost the fight.
So he got it, and you didn't get dropped at all?
No.
Where was he from?
He was from Larkhall.
Was there any was that some boxing politics then?
I think there was a bit of boxing politics involved. So it was a huge fight. The Gypsies versus the Jews. I think his father and a few of my friends, I think it was more, they were earning more than me, the 2 fighters were earning. So, but anyway, we digress. So I won that. It was a big controversy. And then there was even more controversy because I fought him 2 fights later on the return. And yes, it was a horrible fight for me. And I really say to David, I got that decision, but maybe I shouldn't have. In real boxing terms, and real, the way it was, he jabbed and he grabbed, and he just nullified everything I'd done. So he didn't really want to fight, but that's not taken away from maybe the referee seen things, but it was a completely different fight to the first fight.
Do you think he learned from getting dropped by you 3 times how he was going to fight you differently in the second fight? Obviously wanted to play it more safe.
He was a very clever boxer. He was a very good boxer. The cracking boxer, actually. He just listen, his tactics were spot on. Spot on for the fight. We done what I had to do. But as I say to him anyway, no matter what, David, when I speak to him now, I went, it was 1-1 anyway, and you've got a victory over me.
That's a fair way to look at it. Sounds like you definitely won the first fight, but you're very honest to say he probably could have got it on points in the second one. So I won each.
That's
the way.
And then the journey started after that. I was very, very fortunate. I got a few sponsors. And then I gave up my jobbing jeweler as a daytime jeweler, and I became a full-time athlete in 1988, and I moved to London.
Did you move to London to relocate with a trainer down there?
Moved and I signed. Morris was my manager for my first 3 years, and promoted by a Glasgow promoter for the first 3 years. And then what happened was Mickey Duff came calling. And that's basically like nowadays, so people understand, box on small hall shows, and then Matchroom come for you, or Box Nation come for you, and they want to have a meeting with you. So I had a meeting with a man called Mike Barrett, and after that, it's like, he's going to take me where I want to go. It's like they're talking about stuff that they're talking about stuff I only see on TV. You know what I mean? It's on realms of my imagination of where we're going to go. So 17 fights. And then we moved to London. And then we proceeded to down there. I stayed in a place called Swiss Cottage. I ran around Regent's Park every day. St John's Wood. My friend, was there for a year before I met anybody. My life was just, I was all in. All I was there to eat, sleep and train.
So how old were you when you went to London then? Were you going to be 22, 23?
22 I was. I think I was 22. Just come out for 22. My 23rd year, I think I went there. I fought in Vegas in 88 in Madison Square Garden. And it was at the start, and it was like Bob Arum was involved. And I'm in Vegas, and once again, minding my own business. And this wee old guy comes up to me. "Are you Gary Jacobs?" I went, "Yep." my name's Bobby Salkin. I'm in London. We've been following you for a year already. I went, really? Really? Then Bessie, his wife, had the beehive. And it was a proper old 60s, 50s couple, actually. And we had the fight. It was a great guy. We had that fight. I won the WBC against the guy, Javier Suazo. Bob Arum thought I was going to get beaten, thought I took him to Mike Barry, thought I'd taken too much on. And we went through that fight and we won. So, and everything. So that was my first fight in America. Came back to London and I got in touch with the boy Graham Salkin, his name was, who I spoke to, and he came round and he picked me up the fancy Bentleys and the cars and all the money, and he told me that his dad was in hospital, had a bypass, so he came and got me that weekend after that fight, and I went to the hospital to meet old Bobby, a guy that reached out to me, and he got out, he had a gown on that he got made Bobby Salkin, champion of the world. Anyway, that meeting went away. We stayed there for about an hour, had a wee chat with Bobby, both his brothers, Gary and Graham, who are about 10 and 15 years older than me. And I'll never forget it because it was, they became my dear friends. I'll never forget that because we left there and then Graham said, when we got out of the car, when he dropped me off, he says, what you've done for me, he says, anything. I says, you know what, Graham? I says, oh, I want your friendship. I says, I met Bobby on holiday. He was nice enough to come and teach me. I've been down in London. I'm here to do one thing. I'm here to eat, sleep and train. And that's what I was doing. And then the Salkins became a very big part of my group, my London group. It was Graham Salkin, Gary Salkin, Bobby Salkin, Jan Salkin. And a funny story, we came back as well. It was like, Graham is, I'll go back, I'll go forward and back and forward. Graham, we came back after that fight, and Graham came to pick me up and he took me to one night he took me to his house on a Friday night, and he just had a baby called Grant. Grant was 6 months old, and Jan was going for a night out. I don't think she's been out for a year and a half. So she's going for a night out, and we're left holding the baby. I'm a fighter, you know what I mean? Graham, I'm expecting he's an adult. You know, he's a woman, a kid. She went out within an hour and a half. I think Jan was back in the house. We didn't know what to do. The baby was like, and subsequently, that boy Grant has now got 2 of his own children.
That's mad, eh? The way time flies.
Yeah, no, I'm telling you, it's frightening, absolutely frightening.
So you've got this team in place. So you had your first 9 fights. You had a wee hiccup, which doesn't sound like it was probably the fight that should have been a hiccup. Should have been a couple of fights later. Then you had notched up 16 wins, which was some achievement. But then you go into you won some titles during those 16 fights. Tell me about some of the British and Commonwealth. You won the British and Commonwealth title in those times, I'm pretty sure.
The British title. I won the Commonwealth title. I fought a guy, Wolf Jensen, from Australia, and I won the Commonwealth title. And I won the WBC International title because that's what they made that fight for. I think I was the third person to fight for that. You know, they've got all these silver belts and international. For the WBC, I think I was the third person to fight for that. It just came out. Now, and I'll say to all the viewers and the people in it with these and all the belts, I agree that there are a lot of belts. There was 4, but there was 3 belts in my era, and then the 4th belt came up with the WBO, and now there's an IBO. I don't decry that. I don't decry there's so many belts, because with boxing, it should be about a lot of people. When there's only one champion, it's very difficult to get a shot. Unless you're in with the right team, you might not get a shot. So you've got all these teams of the Box Nations, you've got the top ranks, you've got the Matchroom, you've got the national promotions, the St Andrews Sporting Club, you've got all these different titles, and the problem is getting a unified title so these will have their own preferred ones. But I do think, especially nowadays with with all the channels, the DAZN, the Fight Zone, you know, Sky, Boxer. I think it's better for the fighters.
There's more opportunity, isn't it? It's more opportunities.
Yeah, so you may create a couple of champions, then they can talk about fighting themselves up. It's a little bit like Amir Khan and Kell Brook. They should have fought fight, but they're going to fight, and people will watch and tune into it.
Couple of defeats. Buddy McGutt, 1989. And then
let me interrupt you. I'll tell you about that fight.
I want to know about that fight. What happened?
23, I don't know anything about Buddy McGutt. I never watched a video in my life of any other fighter. I wasn't interested in what they were going to do. I knew I was ready. I was always ready to fight. So obviously it's about skill set, because it's a skill set game. And I never watched videos. I allowed the manager, like you and my trainer, like you deal with it. I just think it was in front of me. So I never watched the fight. I'm out to fight on Showcase to get on a Thursday night on a televised show on Madison Square Garden. So I'm out in the Catskill Mountains. I'm up in the Concord Resort, training there. Mum and Dad are there. There's loads of other people there that came away training camp. I was in my bed at 10, up at 7, same old thing. They were all partying all right, doing what they were doing. It was just, I was like, I done my thing. 3 days before that fight happened, there was Mike Barrett. That's Mike Barrett and Mickey Duff. There's another story. I signed with Mike Barrett. I had to meet Mike Barrett in the office. Mike Barrett and Mickey Duff split. So Mike Barrett and Mickey Duff were split, and Mickey Duff was the TV man of that group. It was like, you know, when partnerships break up.
Yep.
With Mike Barrett, who was a great man, put his money where his mouth is, looked after me as well, because I ended up with Mickey. But he came and said to me, do you want to stay and fight on the Sunday? So you're asking a 23-year-old boy. You're fighting on the Thursday, $10,000. Back then, it's a lot of money, right? A lot of money. I'm saying, do you want to stay? There's a wee opportunity that's arisen. Do you want to stay till the Thursday? I went, what do you mean? Well, NBC television, a live broad stream. They've got a world title fight and one of the boys is injured. They want to fill it with somebody else. So you're in town, a bit of an attraction. The British boy fighting in Madison Square, or the Felt Forum, should I say. I went, what's the first question that you're going to ask?
How much am I getting?
The first question that comes out of your mouth is, how much? So you're 23 years old. You're still living at home with your folks. And you're going from 10 grand, and he says 150,000. You like that?
Sign me up.
What was that? I went, who's that against? Do you want to see any videos? I don't want to see any videos. I don't care. I'm going to take him out. So, yeah, spoke to all the people there. They all just changed their flights home and their dates. And then we fought Buddy McGutt. But I truly believe that you know, we fight him and I attack him for 10 rounds. I attack him. He outpointed me, outfoxed me. He was just smarter than me. He was slicker. He had more tools in his toolbox than I did. 100%. I've never fought anybody like that before. You know, he's on the back foot. I'm chasing him. He's slipping and he's, you know, just great. Great boy. And I'm like, okay, went home. Didn't think anything of it. Still never really gave Buddy McGutt the credit that he deserved, because I didn't rate myself that highly, to be honest. I was just a wee guy, a wee Newton Mearns boy that took up boxing late, and now I'm fighting out in the garden and didn't realise the seriousness of where I've got to at that time, fighting Buddy McGutt, because I didn't really watch boxing. I didn't really read about it. I read about it in the boxing news. I wasn't really interested, but didn't really think anything of that. And then I fought the Canadian champion right after that, Donovan Boucher. No bother fight him. First time I was on my backside, he put me down. It was once again, it was a close fight. That could have went. He didn't beat me. That could have went either way. Could have been a draw. Could have been his. Could have been mine. It was one of those subjective fights. It was maybe as the knockdown, one of the fights. So that was me on back-to-back losses.
Top level losses though, not against any old people. You know, your Buddy McGurk's a big name, and then to lose to a champion of his country. So it was high level stuff. But tell me this: how are you feeling at this point? Your bank balance is a bit better, so you might have been feeling a wee bit more. But you're a fighter. Were you feeling like you were self-doubting yourself at all? Like, you know, or were you just hungry to get back in there?
I didn't really know what I was going to do. I was in back-to-back losses. I didn't really take myself that seriously and see where I was in the rankings and the ratings. I did, but I didn't really. It was like, you know, I still never visualised what I could do. So I was like, but the making of me, it wasn't the losses. It wasn't the losses. I then fought Peter Eubank. I changed management. It took me a year and a half to get out my management. I went from Mike Barrett and then I left and I went with Mickey Duff. Mickey Duff was the main man in the boxing world back then. It wasn't the thing that gave me the in my head. There was a guy that was Buddy McGutt went on to win the welterweight championship of the world. After that, he had a fight after that, one fight or two. There was a guy called Simon Brown back then, Jamaican boy. 30, I can't remember the amount of fights, 30 fights, 35, 27, 22 knockouts, won them all, unbeaten. The guy, I went to Budapest to see him when the Iron Curtain lifted in Hungary, way back in the 90s, in the late 80s, when they lifted that. And I went to see this guy, Simon Brown, fight. Simon Brown was invincible. He was a machine. He was a fighter. It was like, don't want to be near him. So when it all changed for me, my back-to-back losses, I was like, back-to-back losses. Didn't really know what I was going to do in my career. Didn't know where I wanted to be. I didn't want to stay where I was at, so I didn't know. What happened was Buddy McGutt was going to fight Simon Brown. Now, the guy that's just beat me, I've just been 10 rounds with the guy, went toe-to-toe with him. Thought he was good. Didn't think he was absolutely sensational because he never knocked me out and he never done anything with me. I chased him. He didn't back me up. I chased him all over that ring for 10 rounds. Simon Brown is knocking everybody out. He's the champ. Buddy McGutt fights him, plays with him, and beats him easy. And I'm like, I must be better than I think I am because he didn't do that to me.
Yeah.
And then he didn't do that to me. And then, so then it was like, okay. So then that's when the Mickey Duff thing came in. I then went and signed with Mickey Duff. And because I was the WBC and the Commonwealth champion, I lost all that to Donovan Boucher. But then I went and signed with Mickey Duff after that. I came back, had a wee bit of time out. I ended up having it cost us money to get out of it, to pay the manager, Mike Barrett. And we got out of that. And then it was like, my first fight was against Peter Eubank. He was Chris's younger brother, one of the twins at the Albert Hall. Al Malcolm, I think. I'm sure that was the fight that Lennox Lewis had his first fight on. We shared the top of the billing. It was Lennox Lewis had his first fight on that card at the Royal Albert Hall in 1988, I think it was. 88, 89, around about 89. Yeah, around about then. So that's when it all changed for me. When Buddy McGutt beat Simon Brown, I went, I must be better than I think I am. Because he didn't do that to me. And I had Simon Brown away up here.
So then what do you think? So was it just a belief thing then? You said earlier that you didn't take yourself too seriously. You were probably just going with the flow. Whereas now, did the focus change a wee bit? Did you realise, right, I'm very good. I just need to fine tune some areas or something, and I'm ready to go again.
Yeah, well, it was just, we never know how good we are. You don't know, we just don't know how good we are. But that was a benchmark for me, because McGirt was up there, and I was like, hey, okay, I'm going to change. And then after that, because I wasn't a British champion, but then I was a Commonwealth champion. There was a fighter back then that I stayed away from. That was but he was also managed by Mike Barrett. There was a guy called Kirtland Lang, who was a welterweight champion, who was a brilliant fighter. He beat Roberto Duran on the way up. He was a Jamaican. He was a sensational player. We just missed him, and by just a fight that wasn't suited. It never happened. So, but then it went on, and then after that, I then went on and won British and European, and it was, won the British title. Del Bryan, again, I'd fought him in an eliminator. So he went and fought Kirtland Lang for the British title. And this second coming of my career, he went and won the British title, so we then challenged for the British title, and I won that again. And then it was I defended it once against, I think I defended it. It was Robert Wright. I defended it against Robert Wright, and then all of a sudden the European title comes into play.
Big rivalry. Couple of fights there. Was it Ludovic Proto?
Title comes in a fight. Guy Ludovic Proto, 27 fights. I think he's had 27 fights, 27 wins. Superstar. 22, 23 knockouts. And also in his camp, there was another boy called Ike Quarty, who became a sensational big puncher, Ike the Bazooka Quarty. And I always remember being in the lift with the two boys, going up to see the doctors, and I was like, once I beat him, I get him to fight. And Ike was smaller than me. He became a better champion, actually. So, yeah, that fight happened. The reason why I got the rematch, and the reason why I believe that it was kind of embarrassing for the EBU at that time, because I was number one, I think he was number two. It was a vacant title, it was a 50-50 purse split, but it was a French promotion, and what the French do every year, Louis Acaris, I believe it was, the Acaris was the promoter. What they do every year is they have a big show on, whereas they may have a WBA, a WBC, a WBO, and an IBF, and a European title fight on the one bill. So it's a monster show. Obviously, the European title is not as big as the world's, but because of what happened, and what happened in the outcome of that fight was, the fight happened. And by the time I got back to my dressing room, he was ordered to fight me again. I think they were kind of sort of embarrassed about the result, because he didn't win it. I won the fight. First year, it was his first lot. He was unbeaten. He was the star. It was his show. Once again, I chased him all over the place. And they ordered a rematch right away. So I lost on points on the first.
How do you feel when, you still see it to this day, Gary? You still see people you see robberies happening, and it's it hurts me. It hurts as a fan to watch it, because the fighters and what they put themselves through to go into that ring, put your life on the line, and then to get robbed. You must feel really frustrated, pissed off when you get back to the changing room. You must just feel like all that training I've done, I've won that fight, and then I get robbed at the end with the result. It really must make you feel very disgruntled with the whole thing.
Really disheartened with all, and it's really shameful. But it still goes on to this day. Sometimes people, but you got to remember, fights are subjective. People can be sitting on this side of the ring, that side of the ring, the opposite, and the people see different things. So people can see it how they want to see it. I'm not saying it's, the hometown, there's always a thing of being the hometown advantage.
Course, no matter,
which is fine, and we get that. And it is, but if you're on the receiving end of that, which I have twice, and I avenged them. I avenged most of my losses. I got beat 7 times. I got robbed 2 or 3 times. I avenged all of them. The only one that I never avenged, where there's no dubiety, and I was winning the fight out in the park, and another time when I would have chopped it, I was winning it out of the park. I got knocked out by a guy called Mickey Hughes.
Okay.
A thunderous left hook. I rolled into a left hook. but it was only punch. I took that whole fight, and well, once again, if it was a toe-to-toe battle, and it was like I was cut, he was cut, but I was winning the fight, and I got knocked out. But there was no debate about that.
How do you feel what's it like? I know I've never been knocked out, but you never really got knocked. That's the only time in your career that it happened to you, because you pretty much took the distance, you know.
Yeah.
But what was that moment like when you hit the canvas and you've lost a fight in a knockout? How are you feeling? Do you just take that one on the chin?
Time you don't feel anything, by the way. It's only 2 days, 3 days later, you start waking up, you wake up, you go, where is he? That's what I was saying. Right, okay. So yeah, I might concuss him. I end up spending a night in the hospital. It just is what it is. But that's all. That's what makes boxing is because there's winners and losers. There's no, do you know what I mean? It's like if you get knocked out, there's no debate. You get knocked out. The judges didn't do it. They didn't do it. This one didn't do it. He didn't do it. You get knocked out by the other guy. The other guy was better than you that night, and he got his shot on. And it's down to you as an individual how you come back from that.
One of your best wins then was the rematch with Proto. So was it Italy you went to for that fight then?
France, back in Paris again.
Paris.
Loved the food there. The food there was great.
The food was good, but you couldn't eat too much. You were making weight.
Yeah, but it was still nice food. Whatever you're eating, nice.
So, build up to that fight. I take it you were being quite vocal and saying that, you know, I won the first fight and I'm here to set the record straight. Yeah,
well, coming back, I said, but the thing is, yes, listen, we know. Listen, as an individual, I know, he knows, people watching all know. The bottom line is, as long as he knew, all I said to him was coming back. I was kind of vocal because I was kind of upset, but he was just going to get more of what he got last time. And I think when I turned up to that fight and the return of that fight, it was like he just knew I was back. And then when the bell went, it was like he really knew I was back. And in the 8th round of that particular fight, I think at the end of I think 27 to 30 punches without reply. The referee's standing looking. He's looking at the corner. He's looking at the fight. He's looking at the corner. He's looking at me. I'm like, don't look at me. I'm cracking him. I mean, so they didn't stop the fight, and the round ended. And it was 10 seconds after that, I got my knockout on round 9. But they should never have sent him back out.
Doesn't sound like they should have sent him back out. That many punches unanswered. I think he should be setting in there. So you set the record straight. That was a big moment in your career. You know, becoming European champion, and now you're in positions to start looking at the big fights again. You go 90. Eamon Loughran was a guy. Correct me if I've not pronounced that right. This is where I find your career really interesting. You look at fighters these days, and their promoters will steer them towards, more often than not, the easiest champion to get a belt. Now, you could have got the fight with Eamon Loughran, which would have been for the what belt would it be? Which one?
WBO title.
WBO title. Why didn't you take that fight?
We just went another way. We went another way. We might not have made it happen. We went with Barry Hearn's already got one win over me already. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to give him two. No, we just decided I wanted the WBC, and it's all to do. Excuse me. It's all to do with money, isn't it? If you're going to fight, there's more money going for the WBC route than going for the WBO route. And I was on a mission to fight Whitaker. Who's the best? He's the best. I want to fight him. So I became British and European. I had 4 or 5 defences of the European title. Gave that up. Gave my British title up.
So how does the call? So how do you get notified that you're going to get what happens? And just for the viewers here, Pernell Sweat Pea Whitaker, one of the best
of all time,
like a serious fighter, a tactician, had it all. Quite similar to almost like quite Mayweather and him, similar kind of skills. But I think he had more in his armory.
Well, we got to remember, Mayweather was taught by his dad, Roger, and Pernell beat Roger Mayweather.
Yeah,
that's
right.
is you want to fight someone, you copy him. I think Buddy McGirt was also, toss up.
Toss up, aye.
I think they fought each other. I mean, Pernell got robbed off at Chavez. So I'm mixing in the elements of like the Sugar Rays, the Leonards, the Hagler, the Hearns, with those type of fighters. That's, I've been mixing them with that. But the American greats, they make them greats. But I wanted the WBC one. I wanted the green one. Who was the best? I wanted to make my mark. Eamon Lachlan, we could have fought. Yeah, but he had that title, and it was like, I wanted that title, and there was more money in that title. So it was all about chasing the money. It wasn't the money, but it was all about that. It is all about money.
Of course, you want to make the bigger check.
Yeah, no, there's a big check out there. You're gunning for that. So being the number, which Pernell Whitaker would never have fought Gary Jacobs, never in a million years. I was number one WBC contender. So no matter what, the champion has to fight all his number ones, which I did. I fought all the number one. You get 9 months grace once you win it. Defend it. You don't have to defend it for another 9 months. So, I was number one in the WBC. I was number one in the WBA. I was going to fight De La Hoya after it. So, Whitaker had to fight me. It was a fight that had to be made. So I gave up all the rest. And I've got a couple of pals that say to me, "Why didn't you defend the British title?" I went, because there was more money in the other ones. I'm not risking that money to go and fight. I'd rather go and fight for $1 million and 25 grand. So yeah. So it was all about the money. So yeah. The Proto one was a sweet victory to be honest. That was, but that got me to become the champion of Britain, and then to become the champion of Europe, the EBU, the proper one. They're all proper actually. It's just a bit of a but the EBU, European Boxing Union title, to become the champion of that, it means you're champion of half the world. So somebody's got to listen. So that's how we got back into the change management, went with Mickey Duff, started the ball rolling, got the British title, got the European title, because before that was the WBC International and the Commonwealth title, and I lost those. The only title I ever lost in the ring was to Donovan Bushy, the Commonwealth title, because he cracks up to me. I still speak to him, and he's cracking up with me to this day. He's never received his belt.
That's shocking.
He's never received his belt. But I said, Donovan, that's not down to me. That's down to the promoter.
Aye.
I said, I've still got my belt. In fact, I've got a few of them. The only one that you don't get to keep when you win every time is the Lonsdale.
The Lonsdale, okay.
Yeah. So I like to keep that. That's the only one I never got to keep. But I was the owner of the British title for 2 occasions.
Unbelievable achievements. When does the phone call come, right? You're fighting Whitaker.
Oh.
So you fought him in 95, you fought him. So you get the phone call. Before
that, we get to I'm now number one. And he's going to fight me. He is going for his 5th world title at the weight above me. Or I'm fighting a guy Vasquez. If you look at my record, it's in March. I think it's in March. Is it in March when he fights for that? But I am all. So what they do is they bring me over, and I'm on showcase. So this is going to be Whitaker's next fight, no matter what. For the welterweight, he's fighting for the light middleweight championship. He's now fighting for and they've got me on showcase for that fight, and they got me a 10-round fight. But should have done away with the guy. The fight went 10 rounds. He was probably an American journeyman. The fight goes 10 rounds, and all of a sudden, because I've not looked that great fighting him, and this is Whitaker's next opponent, he shouldn't be fighting him. He's not that good. He's not this, he's not that. But I had a wee corn in my hand, and during that fight, when I hit him with my right hand, I ended up, put it this way, cut a long story short, I was in the hospital for 5 hours after that fight. Oh. Corn had split, and it split my knuckle, and I got 3 or 4 stitches in it. But that's my excuse. There's nobody that knows that apart from me. So that's why they were having it. I mean, who's this Brit? Who's this Jacobs boy? What's he doing? He's number one. He should be number one. He's, you know, why is he getting a shot at the title? He never disposed of this guy. But that was the reason. So anyway, that was on Showcase in the March, and then it was like later on that year. Was it September? Was it a September fight?
19. I've just got 95, so I didn't know if it was September.
It was 95. 95 when I get up to fight, because I go there and we fight him in the Atlantic City Convention Centre. And it's like, it's the typical Americans. I can hear his music next door. It's razzmatazz. It's all. Sure, I love all that stuff. I think that's great. You know, everybody does. Some people go silent. Some people don't like music. Some people have got a disco going on. There's a party going on. I like a bit of, you know, it just loosens you up and keeps you. Some people are too serious. Some people are nice and relaxed. There's one thing you cannot buy through all of this thing is anyway, you cannot buy experience. You have to earn it and learn it.
Yeah, 100%.
So
you're in your changing room. You're about to go into the fight, one of the best fighters, and you're just feeling relaxed. You're enjoying the music from the other changing room, and you're, you know, embracing the moment.
Yeah, I get called out first time in the ring, which has been unusual for the last years and years and years. I'm usually the champ in the ring. I'm usually the one that's coming out last, being the British and the European, the Commonwealth. I was 20, 27, 26, 25, 28 championship fights. I had, I believe, something like that. A few 26, 12 rounders. Oof. So I'm normally first in the ring, I'm normally second in the ring. So I'm in there, and then all of a sudden he gets introduced, and I turn around and I look over. And all I'm thinking is like, I'm going to smash you tonight. 400 of them all coming along with the music, the banners. And it's like watching Rocky 4 or Rocky 3, Apollo Creed. You know, it's just typical Americans, but an exceptional fighter.
What made him so good?
He was just a defensive fighter, you know. I think there's two styles of fights, there's three styles of fight. You can be an aggressor, you can be the counter puncher. My style was I was like an aggressive counter puncher. I was coming forward, throwing punches. The whole secret of boxing, no matter what you want to do with the hands or with this and that, it is a gift. It is a gift that you earn and you make and you learn. You know, so the whole idea about it is don't get hit. I've always said, don't get hit. Go and learn a disco dance. All you know, movement. Learn to do. It's all about the movement. It's all about the rhythm. It's all don't get hit. You know, so some people just don't get hit, and he was one of the ones that was very, very, very hard to pin down and win closely. But on the defense of that, when you're first starting out in your career, I don't believe that style, like Mayweather, but people don't forget about Mayweather. Mayweather copied him. You know, Mayweather fights on the shoulder up and the back foot, and he didn't fight like that all the time. I think when you start in boxing, you have to go and get, you have to go and take. Go and take the titles, you've got to go and take them. So you go and take them, then you've got them. Then you can protect them. It's down to you, because if you're the champ, you can fight any way you want to fight. You want to fight in the back foot, you want to fight in the front foot, you want to fight in the middle of the ring. That's completely down to you. It's up to the way you want to fight the fight. So it's certain styles will be certain fighters as well. So, you know, these boys all went out and got it, first of all. And then when they've got it, it was like, come and take it off me, which is a hard thing to do.
So you're obviously on the offence quite a lot of that fight against Whitaker. You were trying to put the pressure on him.
I don't think I lose any of the first 6 rounds.
I know I've looked, and it looks like you're putting it on him. You were coming hard at him.
Watch that fight. As I say to me, watch that fight. I don't win any of the first 6 rounds according to the judges.
Right, that's not the case. That's not the way I seen it. I seen that you were taking rounds early in the fight.
I don't reckon I lose any of the first 6 rounds.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, he's slipping and moving. I'm charging forward. It's like the greatest sequel of all time. The greatest movie is Rocky. You know, it's just, that's a boxer's life. It's just brilliant.
What was it like? Were you after the fight? What was it like with him? What was it like with Whitaker after the fight? Did you feel like the crowd respected you? That Whitaker respected you? Did you feel happy with your performance?
Oh, I was delighted with the way. Listen, as I say to everybody, I was delighted. I done the very, very, very best I could. I couldn't have done any more. And in my lifetime and in my career, as I say to everybody, I have absolutely no regrets about my boxing career, winning or losing. You know, there was no stage or what in my life or whatever. See, if I hadn't have done that, or I hadn't have done that, or I hadn't have done that, I might have won. It wasn't that way. I gave them all. I was all in from the word go, right from the start. So
that's what I love about your boxing career. They don't make. I wish more fighters were still had that mindset, because you dared to be the great. You dared to go out there and take on the best fighter in his territory. You took him 12 rounds. I seen actually some comments that you talked about. Like, Ricky Hatton's done really well in his career. You know,
yeah.
He went on and he fought two of the best.
But what he did is he done it smartly. He made all his money. He had a massive fan base. I love Ricky. He's a fantastic fighter. Got 20 world title fights, then fought the two marquee fighters, and then Mayweather and Pac-Man. So he tried to. There's levels of world champions, and then there's super elite levels.
Yeah.
I was in the super elite level. Didn't win a world title, but I won British, European, Commonwealth. So I was mixing in those levels throughout the gyms, throughout the world. When you mentioned the name Whitaker, if you know anything about boxing, you've heard about the name Pernell Whitaker. If you don't, you think you know boxing, you've not heard of his name, you don't really know anything about boxing, to be honest.
Sadly passed away recently in a car accident, was it, Gary?
Believe that. I cannot believe it. I'd be calling him out for one of these 10-round exhibition ones. We can both get a few quid. Sad young man. Young man, he's just he was the type of guy that went through his whole amateur career all through the Olympians and became Olympic champ. Something went wrong with him. He won Olympic gold, didn't he? With Holyfield and
Yep.
I don't know that. Whitaker. Yeah, he done it. He's lived in the gym since he was a kid. He perfected his art of not getting hit and then not getting hit. And then when you make the miss, you've got to hit again. So, yeah, no, it was great. It was great. You know, I wanted to. I was best in Europe, best there. Who's the best fighter on the planet? Mickey Duff was like, we can go for another man. Nah, I want to fight him. So I dared to be great.
Listen, I respect you a great deal for that. And like you say, first 6 rounds of that fight, you were. I watched it twice. I watched the highlights one, and I watched the full fight about 3-4 months ago, and I thought it was definitely, that was the best part about it. You didn't go over there and get your ass handed to you. You went over there and you put on a serious fight. The crowd seemed to like it. And I was curious to know what he was like with you after the fight. You must have earned his respect.
Well, he was down there. Listen, I had him down in the 10th round. He was down in the 10th. Then it was a slip of him. The referee counted it. I then get against the greatest fighter on the planet. I get a public warning with 20 seconds to go.
What was that for? What got said to you about that?
No, I just looked at him and then all of a sudden it was like my head went down. He hit me with a right, a left hand twice, got up. A left hand again, went down and got up. I was down twice after that. I got up, then the bell went. But that for me, there's just no chance I can win.
Because going down twice and late in the fight, that's the judges are going to jump on that.
I wouldn't have went down if there was no public warning.
Yeah.
It was just, the fight was just taken right out of me. I'm like, come on, I'm fighting him at all. I don't even fight you. You know what I mean?
It's hard enough. But that's it. That's the nature of boxing. Even the referees, sometimes when you go to America or you go to some other countries, you're up against probably 3-4 men in the ring. Sometimes it's no easy, and it's a sad part of boxing. I wish it was a side of it that could change. So after a further 4 wins, 7 fights later, you fight your final fight against a chap called Yuri. Do you remember that fight?
Yes, I remember that fight. You know, nothing fight. I chucked it in the 8th round of that fight. I didn't want to be there anymore. But I know what I'd done. I was a mental trainer. I lived a life. So all I did was eat, sleep, and train. I had 3 12-round fights in 5 months. That was and that culminated. That was the third one that I had that year. I had 1 fight, 2 fights, and that was the third one. No time at the gym. I was just jaded. But I decided that was it for me. I decided as I called it a day. He should never have beat me. He should never have beat me. No, I'm not taking the credit away from him. He beat me. But the bottom line is, it's all about levels. It wasn't a level I was at. I was jaded. Maybe if I had taken 6 months off and then came back again. But I just decided, 12 years at it at the top is done. Do you know what I mean? Because you get from there to there. You get from there, you get to there. You know, it's done. You know, it's like you fight for $1 million, then they're offering you. Hold on.
No, you're all right.
Offer you 20 grand to fight.
That's going to be hard. That's going to be hard to get motivated for when you've been at the top, making the big money.
Hold on one second. Hold on. Jesus, knows that. Where's the winner gone there? Here, it's disappeared. I thought you said I could put it on silent.
I don't know what's happened there. I don't know. It's my fault.
My son's calling me. He's now FaceTiming me and everything.
You finish up your career, Gary. What a career. 53 fights. Correct me if I'm wrong here. This is what I've got. 53 fights, 45 wins, 26 knockouts, with only 8 defeats. And the defeats we're talking, as we've chatted about some of them, have come against some of the world's best. Were you content? Were you content at that point?
See that last fight?
So 53 fights, 45 wins, 26 by knockout, only 8 defeats. A lot of those defeats came against some very, very elite fighters in the game. One of them being probably one of the best of all time, in Pernell Sweat Pea Whitaker. You content? Are you happy? Do you feel that, you know, that's a serious 12-year career? Were you walking away feeling like that? It sounds like when you came into boxing, you never really had the dream of getting up to that point. You sounds like you just kind of, all right, I'll give it a crack. 50 quid a fight. Let's see where it goes. And then to achieve that, you must be happy with that.
And you know something, you've picked up on that very well. Yeah. No, yes. I'm absolutely delighted with where I got to. I have absolutely zero regrets. Boxing showed me a great life. It took me all around the world. I gave it my all. I put my all in. I'd done the very best I could. I got beat when I got beat, and I won when I won. You know, and it's like I fought the very best fighters out there. I fought the number ones in Britain, the number ones in Europe, number ones in the Commonwealth. I fought the number one fighter, one of the greatest fighters of all time, defensive fighters of all time, in Pernell Whitaker. I am absolutely delighted with my career. The bottom line is, you know, at the end of it, I'm still walking, talking, not slurring my words, not really sort of, you know, still pretty all with it and all there a little bit, rather than, you know, I wouldn't like to be like Evander Holyfield last week shouldn't have fought.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have fought. I don't, it's money's no good to you if you can't talk.
Yeah, no, I agree. You got to get some fighters fight on longer than they probably should. Sounds like you made a wise choice there. But you've come out of the ring. This is something that you see it in Rocky. You've talked about Rocky a few times. When a fighter comes out the ring, they find it very, very difficult to kind of get back into normal life. You know, you're so used to the buzz of the training, the getting in the ring and competing, you know, winning titles, you know, having that real just constant buzz around you. To that all to stop, how are you feeling mentally, and how did you make that switch into normal life?
Very difficult. I wrote my book. My book's going to be coming out next year, so, and it's all about the downfall, because there's a big downfall after that, as we all have, because we're on such a high of doing that and doing my job and being there and living your life, and then, as you say, you come back, the phone don't stop for you. There's no text messages. You've got to rebuild another life. That is no decry to all the people that are about you. That's just life. It's the next batch and the next person that's coming through, and then the next people. So that's just the way that life is. Do you know what I mean? So you got to deal with that and learn to deal with it. And so yeah. So I've got my book coming out. I'd like to do another show.
I can see where we're going. You're not going to give away too much, and I respect you for that. And I'll be sure to buy your book. And maybe we can chat down the line again, just on the challenges of leaving boxing and what you went through, because I can imagine that must have been a bumpy time.
Oh, it's been terrible. Up until like 55 years up to this day, it's still, these things are still with you. It's life after boxing is very difficult. It's been very difficult for me. But a lot of it's it just is what it is, isn't it?
So when's the book due, Gary? Exactly when's it due?
Book will be out next year. Awards and all.
Well, everybody look out for that. Gary Jacobs' book. It'll be an interesting read, and I'd imagine it'll be interesting to hear about the struggles of leaving boxing and going on from there when you've achieved the heights that Gary's achieved. But listen, you've done some brilliant things. You've stayed in boxing. I see your name. I see you around all the shows. You're still involved with some great fighters. How have you enjoyed the personal training and being involved still with fighters?
Getting back involved. Do you know what? It's quite nice now. I'm now giving my time to a couple of young fighters that are all in. One of them's on back-to-back losses. A young lady who's just had her first fight, who's 21 years old.
I seen that. Aye, seen that on Twitter.
Lily Ella, and Martin Harkins. I'm helping Martin Harkins. He's had 15 fights, back-to-back losses. Lily Ella, who's just had her first fight, came and asked me. I've not put myself out there to ask them, came and asked me to help them. So I'm going to help, try to start. You know, they talk about all these great trainers. A good fighter makes a great trainer. You know, the trainer just has to guide them.
Perfect example, Manny Pacquiao with Freddie Roach.
But Manny Pacquiao is going to eat, train. Freddie just has to guide him.
Yep.
I mean, he has to guide him. You get me. You get Anthony Joshua. You get Tyson Fury. You get all these top names. You get, Roy Jones Jr. just started out. I remember Roy Jones Jr. being in he was in my room, my hotel room in 95 with a Whitaker. He was just a kid starting out, became a superstar. So, you know, you met Eubank, used to pay him as a sparring partner. I was like, Lennox Lewis had his first fight in my undercard. You know, I've got a book coming out, and all that will be in the book. It's just, the life after boxing, the life after sports, for all of us, men and women. Life after sports is very difficult. Difficult. But, you know, I've got a family, my family are all up the way. My baby's 25. I've got a 29, a 27, and a 25-year-old. Funny names, you got to call them something. Olivia, Jenna, and Greg.
Nice,
you know, all university degrees and making their own way in life. And it's through their 20s, that's when you do it all. So it's all about when you come, you leave your mark. I've left my mark in boxing. I don't owe boxing anything. It doesn't owe me. I love the sport. I love what it does for young kids. I love it how it gets people off the streets. It is the best discipline out there for anything, you know. And really, I have a little bit of a dream now, is to take somebody and take them to be better than me. I want to be involved with somebody. There's lots of people better than me. I want somebody to be involved with some to make them better than me. And if I could do that, I'd be over the moon. So if I could do that.
Let's talk a bit before we finish up, Gary, about current boxing. Let's start in Scottish boxing. Scottish boxing's booming right now. It's got some serious talents. Now I look back at some of the talents Scotland's already produced. I didn't obviously watch the Jim Watson stuff, but Ken Buchanan's, but I know how good they were. But obviously there's yourself, there's Alex Arthur, Scott Harrison, Ricky Burns. They're like the four names that I know well from my era, from my kind of age, that I would know of, that have done fantastic things for Scottish boxing. I'm looking at the current era. You've got Josh Taylor, unified, best in Britain, best in the world. Who knows where he can go on? I think there's some huge fights out there for him. But the other two that I'm excited about, they've already had one fight, and that's Lee McGregor from Edinburgh, Cash Farouk from Glasgow. We're all hopeful we're going to see that fight in 2022. How do you see that fight?
What a fight. We Cash Farouk, great fighter, great animal. Yeah, he's a great human being. So is Lee McGregor, as it happens. The two boys, Cash is, I know they're both. Cash, I think, edged the first fight.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Okay.
I think he edged the first fight. And that's a fight at this level up there, it's like the fight will happen again. It's going to be a great fight. It'll be a great fight. And those two boys, those two kids, whatever, they haven't stopped training through this lockdown, through this pandemic. So what people would like to know, as that happens, it's quite a good way to think me that this pandemic that has happened and everybody's had to stay in. That's the way I'm sure Cash Farouk, Lee McGregor, and me, that's the way I used to live my life. I didn't go out. We didn't go out. We eat, sleep, and train. And then maybe for a couple of weeks, once the fight's over, you go and party for a bit and go out. But ultimately, throughout my 10 years of life, 30, 12, 11 years of boxing life, and the same as Cash and Lee, they don't party. You'll see them in the fancy swanky doos and all that. You'll see them for 2 minutes. They're just turning up. They're there. They're having a night out, a bit of dinner, socialising. Then they're not doing 2, 3 in the morning. It's not all that. So they are, unless they're not training for a fight. But these boys, it's a great fight. It's a great fight. Cash should have got it. I think Cash edged it the first time. It will be a super fight the second one. And whatever these two boys are getting, they should be getting more. Because that'll be better than world title fights.
That'll be a crack. And I hope they do. I really, really hope they do it at the Hydro up in Glasgow. People will buy tickets. That would be a great fight for Scotland.
The thing is, Cash is now managed by Ian Wilson, and he's obviously promoted by Eddie Hearn. So Eddie Hearn, he'll be on a matchroom. So the matchroom will go to a Hydro with whoever. So, and then one of the kids can fly the flag. Yeah, Cash is my pal, always has been. Lives a life. Yeah, like him, like Craigie's trainer. Yeah, no, it's a super fight. I will be at that one, I think. I'm
hoping to be there as well. I've already slipped a few comments into Cash. Cash, remember your mate? Slip me a wee ticket. So hopefully I'll get to catch up with you. That'll be some night. Some night.
Talk about him again on this. So we're bumming, and I'm bumming him up.
That's it. I'll be sending this clip to him. He's already said to me he's looking forward to hearing your podcast. So I'm sure he'll be tuning in. You'll appreciate the kind words. Let's move into the big guys. Heavyweight boxing. You've got 4 or 5 names just now. Fury's obviously just got the better of Wilder and that trilogy stuff. There's great fights.
I think he gets to keep him after 3.
He deserves to keep them. The way he got up off the floor.
I'm talking about keep Wilder.
Listen, what did you think of him going into that first fight? I thought he was going to get. I just thought it was too early. He was too dangerous, and he was going to get probably very badly hurt. He almost did get badly hurt, but the man's just made of something else. I agree with you. He's got to be up there as one of the greatest of all time,
without any shadow of a doubt. Bottom line is, Wilder's the big hitter. He's chinned everybody. He even chinned Tyson, and he got up.
Yep.
He got up. Miraculously, he got up. And then, Tyson's the best heavyweight out there. End of.
So before I even ask you that question, you think he beats Usyk and he beats Joshua? I think the same. I don't see how anyone can beat him.
Usyk is a fantastic. The only one that's really done it from cruiserweight to heavyweight is Evander. And the damage that has caused to him is because, you're going from the wee guy.
Too much punishment.
Yeah, but what I mean, it's just the resilience of the man and the size of these guys now. Tyson Fury is 6'9", 18 stone and moves like a flyweight. Hits like a flyweight, floats like a butterfly and stings like a bee, by the way.
Aye.
And can take a shot and get up. He's proved it all. He'll go down as one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. No doubt about it.
He's my dream podcast after you, Gary Jacobs. That's the one day I want to speak to him on. I would love to, because everything, having been somebody who's had some troubles with mental health as well, his journey and the way he came back from that, I just think they've got to make a movie about Tyson Fury. That would be some movie. I just don't know who's going to play the role. 6'9", 18 stone, whatever. They're going to need to find a large man, unless Fury goes into acting.
Well, he probably could.
Probably could. He probably could. He's got that charisma about him. No, listen, I agree with you. I think he's brilliant for boxing. So where are you at in life now, Gary? Are you happy? You content? Your kids are all grown. They're doing well with themselves. You're training. It'd be nice now to take a fighter, as you said, on a big journey. But in general, are you happy? Are you in a good place?
In general, right now. Well, it could always be better, and it could always be worse. A few things have happened throughout the last year. Family things that I'm trying to deal with. Everybody, I'm in a better place. Everything's good at the moment. We're all good.
Good to hear it, Gary. I need to give a big shout out to a mutual friend, Big Cruel Jono. He's a good man.
Honey, my big, no, he's got a competition. He's got OCD as our man, Cruel Jono. He works with me in the corner. I've asked him to help work with me in the corner, which he's happy to do. He does the hands. He now wraps the hands. I say that I can do better at him, and he's adamant that I can't. So I'll let him win that argument. He probably is better than me at doing it anyway. But it's like I can use these better.
He's a great guy, really, really nice, genuine guy. Put us in touch with each other. It's been an absolute pleasure, Gary. Been an absolute pleasure. I could talk stories with you all day. I just love the boxing, and to hear the places you've mixed and the company you've mixed in along your boxing career. You are royalty, Scott. You know, you're now Hall of Fame. You got your Hall of Fame recognition as well. You know, you've entered in there with the Ken Buchanans, Jim Watts, special fighter. You know, the little boy that just started for 50 quid a fight when he was, you know, and have gone on to achieve what you have. Very proud, very happy for you. And I think it's just phenomenal what you've done. And I think you've got so much to offer to the next generation. And I hope that we see somebody, Gary Jacobs, a trainer, and some fighter go all the way, whether it's a woman, whether it's a guy. I know you work with, I've done some work with Hannah Rankin as well, haven't you?
Yes, I'm part of Hannah's team. I've been part of Hannah's team since the start almost. Since she's after I'm part of Hannah Rankin's team. So delighted to be part of that. Hope she does wonderfully well. Want her to win everything as well. And Noel Callahan, who is her trainer and coach. So the team that we've surrounded myself with a good team. I've got a good team with I'm involved in a team, but we're all a team, if you know what I mean. What we're involved in. You know, I think the thing is with me, I've had my time, Kasim. I've had my time. I got to there. What a dream. What a dream. If I can take somebody by there and make them better than me. You know,
that'd be wonderful. That'd be wonderful. I'm rooting for you, and I'm sure somebody good, either one of the ones you're training just now or somebody else is going to come through, and you'll achieve big things together. And I think it'd be great.
Either that, I'll call Cool Jono. We wouldn't do it again.
Why not? Why not? Exhibition fight. Call out Oscar De La Hoya or something.
Yeah, well, mate, I think I've seen somebody. I've seen Hatton do that. I went, if he doesn't want to do that, I'll maybe I should fight Ricky Hatton.
Listen, I would pay to watch that. Gary Jacobs against Ricky Hatton. I'd pay to watch that.
Well, it could all be good. Yes, you know, life's a very much of a. Yeah, we're all. Yeah. We've got different challenges in life, as we say. I'm all happy. You know the most important thing in life. You know what the most important thing is?
Tell me, sir. Family.
Your health.
Your health, yeah. Health and well-being.
Family's top of the tree, but your health is top of the tree, and you're surrounded by good people. That's all that matters. And thank you for having me on your show, and I'll be happy to come on and do it again.
Been a pleasure, Gary. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Kasim. Thank you.